Hello, welcome to another episode of PropTech Talks. I'm Zeenish, your host, and I'm back for you with another episode for the London PropTech Show, where we explore cutting-edge solutions, network with industry leaders, and gain insights into the future of PropTech technology. We have with us today Rebecca Nixon, who is the CMO of multiple PropTech startups. Rebecca, thank you for joining us today.
You're very welcome. It's great to be here.
So, Rebecca, could you start by telling us a bit about your background and how you became involved in the PropTech industry?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. I've been working in B2B SaaS for 14 years now, and I've been specializing in PropTech since 2019. My background is I grew up in Australia, but moved to London in 2011. And started working with different B2B SaaS businesses there. Got into PropTech with a full-time role. And then from there, started building a portfolio. I was being a fractional CMO for a number of different PropTech startups. And that's where I'm at today. So a few years ago, I moved out to Wales and bought a small holding. So I work fully remotely, but most of my clients are based in London and most of my business relationships are still there.
Wow. So in your LinkedIn bio, you mentioned that being a PropTech startup founder is hard and you make it easier. Like, how do you make it easier?
Well, essentially, there's two sides to this, right? So being a PropTech startup is hard because of the mental and emotional load. And it's hard because the PropTech market is very closed and relationship driven. So on the one side, you need some support in ensuring that you are taking the right strategic approach to building your business with regards to taking care of your own mental health, managing your team effectively, knowing which areas of the market to focus on, how to grow your business and how to get your messaging right. And the other side of that is relationships within the PropTech community with other people who are doing things that are similar to you, or understanding the unique marketing channels that are available within PropTech and understanding how the property industry works so that you can enter that niche. Because if you're from a property background, you probably have the right connections and know how to understand how property works and how to build a business in property, but you may not know how to build and scale a SaaS business. If you're from a SaaS background, you probably don't know the nuances of the property industry and the sort of, the funny little things that can make all the difference in trying to reach your market.
I agree with that. As a CMO in PropTech space, what are your primary responsibilities?
Well, fundamentally, the commercial growth of the business is my primary responsibility, ensuring that the way in which the business goes about growing is scalable and that the messaging engages with the target audience. So everything I do is about the customer. Who is the customer of my client, the business that I'm working with? What are their needs? What are their pain points? What are their difficulties? How are we going about solving those? And how do we get that message in front of future customers so that the business can grow and scale? So that's a really, really fundamental part of what I do. I tend to work very hard on testing messaging. We shouldn't assume that we know what customers want or how they want to hear it. So seeing what works and what resonates with the industry first on a small scale, and then building it from there.
So you talk about messaging. What are the successful marketing strategies that you've implemented for PropTech startups, like until now?
Well, focusing on messaging first, there's a number of different startups I've worked, and every single one of them has benefited from revisiting their messaging and ensuring that their messaging works with the target market. There's a number of different ways we go about testing that, right? The first thing I tend to do is talk to the existing customers, find out what they love about the product, why they love it, and take what they've said, whether it's in the form of case studies or reviews, and use their wording to describe what's great about the product and how it helps them and why other people like them should invest in the product. That's a really simple, fundamental thing to start with if you want to build success in your marketing operations. How you go about testing that really depends on who your audience is. So certain parts of the market will respond more to an email campaign, others a LinkedIn campaign, others an SDR calling campaign. So it's really vital that we test the messaging in ways that we can get some sort of actionable insights off the back of it, rather than just what a lot of people do is they sort of do what I call spray and pray. So they just put loads and loads of stuff out and that something lands without really knowing how or why or what to do from there. So I tend to do small scale testing of messaging based on real customer experiences. If the startup doesn't have customers yet, which some of the startups I've worked with have, they're starting from zero, then it becomes about building an audience, building a relationship with the people who will become your customers in the future. The same principles apply, but you do have just a little bit more patient and careful with how you go about testing things.
So it's quite like research driven, right?
Yeah, definitely. Trial and error. You should never assume that you know what people want or need to hear. Even just last week, I ran a campaign with a client where we split test 2 different kinds of messaging, one of which was super informative and engaging and vibrant and professional. The other was very simple, very pared down, very emotional, had hardly any information whatsoever. And the latter campaign performed far better than the initial campaign, the former campaign. So, that's not a given. You can't assume that an emotional campaign or an informative campaign perform better. You have to try both and see what works, because different people will respond differently.
Yeah, definitely. And what are the key performance indicators that you track to measure the success of marketing initiatives?
So I always work really closely with the sales team, if there is one. If there isn't, I try and set up a rudimentary sales function and work from a funnel perspective. So what are we looking to achieve in terms of revenue goals? What does that look like in terms of approximate number of customers? What's the conversion rate from a lead to a customer? And what's the conversion rate from an engagement to a lead? So we're working backwards and building out from the very, very top of the funnel through to closed won sale and revenue of the business. And whatever that looks like for that business, those are the KPIs I'm looking for. I don't like vanity metrics. I don't like saying, oh yeah, but we've doubled our website visits. Well, if that's meaningful in terms of building engagement that's going to translate into revenue, then yes, that is a KPI. But for some business, that is not a KPI. Sometimes it's number of inbound inquiries is really the only you can go by, because they get website traffic from other sources that doesn't convert. So yeah, the KPIs are funnel based and conversion based.
Yeah, well, that's fascinating. So PropTech is like a rapidly evolving field. How do you stay up to date with the industry trends and innovations? Because of course, that's really important for your work.
Yeah, so there's 2 sides to that. One side is making sure that I stay engaged with the PropTech community. Given that I'm really remote, I have to make sure I do that online. I don't do it quite so much in person. Every now and then I'll go into London and do an event or 2. But generally speaking, today engaging with the people in that space. So listening to the podcast, and I interview people on my own podcast as well, the PropTech Growth podcast.
Yes.
And I always keep my calendar open for book conversations. So if people go to my website and click on book a call with me, you can book a 15-minute or 30-minute call with me. It doesn't matter who you are in the industry, I'll have a chat to you because I feel there's always something to learn from each other. Something else I do is give away loads of advice for free. So I have a blog and I share guides and insights. I have a mailing list that I try to engage with on a fairly regular basis. And I'm on LinkedIn a lot. And so I always make sure that I maintain those relationships. And anyone who wants to talk to me about PropTech can. My office door is always open. So that's one side of it. The other side is keeping on top of what's happening in technology and marketing in general. So that I can bring that into the PropTech space. The PropTech space can be a little bit insular and behind the times. And so what I can do to help with that is to see what's going on outside of that in B2B SaaS, for example, and to make sure that that is getting filtered in and that people are being upskilled and developed from the outside into PropTech.
Yeah. So, like, you have a lot of experience with PropTech startups. Based on your experience, what advice would you give to the aspiring PropTech founders? Like, you would be like quite familiar with the pitfalls and what mistakes mostly the PropTech founders do. So we would really like to know more about that.
Cool. Yeah. So, gosh, what are the common pitfalls? There are some big ones. One is not prioritizing your own mental and emotional health. As a founder, you're a leader and people look to you as a leader, and that can be a lot of pressure. I often joke with my clients, although it's not really a joke, half of what I do for them is CMO work and half of what I do for them is therapy, because they just need someone to talk to about this stuff where they can be vulnerable and open about their challenges and have somebody who can help them work through those. So that's something that I'm really passionate about and is incredibly important because I've seen a lot of founders burn out. And I also think another major pitfall is, oh, I've got a great idea.
Oh,
okay. So you have a great idea, that doesn't mean people are going to pay for it. And you, as a business person, you need to have a sustainable economic model to grow your business. If you do not have that, you do not have a business, you have an idea. And excuse my language, but ideas are like assholes. Everyone has one. It's not special. And often a lot of what comes out of it isn't very useful. So if you want to be a successful founder, you need to, like, before you even start building a product, before you even find a co-founder, you should be talking to the people who are your potential partners for the future and find out whether they really are willing to pay for the solution that you're looking to offer them. Because a lot of the time that is not the case, and you end up spending a lot of time and money and passion and pain building something, and then people go, do you know what, we're actually still perfectly happy to do this on Excel, we don't need a platform for it, or whatever the answer is, right? So make sure that you have an economically viable business. Just like, you know, being a startup founder isn't as special as people like to think it is. So in my local town, if there is an empty corner store, and I look at that store and I go, oh, I'd really like to open a cafe there, I think people would love to come and have coffee and cake on that corner. I'm not going to buy it and set up a coffee shop and hope that people show up. I'm going to look around and see, well, are there any other coffee shops around on these other corners? Is the reason this building is vacant, is that because there used to be a coffee shop here and the business failed because there weren't enough customers? Just the real fundamental basics of running a business still apply to you as a founder. Don't get caught up in your own ego. Do your research first. Make sure you have a business and then go and get some funding and build your product.
Yeah, those are some really great insights from you, Rebecca. And I think we'll take off here, and I hope to see you again, maybe at the London PropTech Show. For our audience, stay connected and stay curious, innovative, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the real estate technology. Until next time.